Mario Valdez. Hey, HW. Have you seen the huge storm cloud from the burning chemicals in Ohio? How much devastation do you think this may actually cause? There is already a lot of dead wildlife being reported. Sad. Yeah, so the vinyl chloride, and there's some other chemicals in it too. I can't remember the other cars that burned up, but vinyl chloride was the main one. It was a million gallons of vinyl chloride that was released slash burned up. So vinyl chloride itself, at various levels, from 5 parts per million to 10,000 parts per million, whatever, basically destroys your liver. It goes straight to your liver to process, and it just kind of blows up your liver, and you die. It's also a carcinogen, so it can lead to all sorts of weird, very aggressive cancers, leukemias, lymphomas, you name it. And it appears to be killing off some family pets. So there's cats and stuff that are left behind. Like, oh, let's put an extra bowl of food for the cat and leave. And the cat took on way too much vinyl chloride, and its liver is now just fatty blob, and it's dying or has died. There's reports of wildlife, deers, bunnies, foxes, coyotes, etc., that have passed away. Lots of fish. I've seen some videos where they put floats, little floats out on streams and rivers to block, because this stuff is lighter than water, so it hits the little pontoon and it will get stopped, and the rest of the water will flow underneath. It's a great way to corral petrochemicals, but the fish all behind that thing are all dead from various things when they burned it off. So their solution was, okay, this stuff might make a Blevy explosion, which would be absolutely terrible. You don't want a Blevy explosion. If you don't know what a Blevy explosion is, it's a boiling liquid evaporate explosion. BLEVE. And this is when you have a pressurized container, like a train car that holds one of these things, and there's a fire. The fire's heating this thing. It has not cracked. There's no fire inside of it yet, and it starts to get to boiling temperature. It wants to turn to gas, and it rips apart the train car in a giant steam explosion of whatever the chemical is, and all that catches fire at once, and the explosions are huge. If you ever want to go down a crazy rabbit hole, look at Blevy explosions. They happen a lot with oil train cars and stuff, and these explosions can launch shrapnel miles away. People will find chunks of railroad cars 10 miles away in their yards. The explosions are huge. So the EPA is like, we can't have a Blevy explosion of this because it will just wipe out the town. Remember that town in Quebec that blew up and disappeared a few years ago from a derailment? This train car went up a little hill. It parked because the conductor was going to take a nap for the night or whatever. And he didn't put chains behind the train line, or the brake snapped, and it rolled backwards in this town, got to a huge rate of speed, derailed, and then blew up the entire town. That was a Blevy explosion that did it. And it just killed 1,000 people. So EPA is we can't have a Blevy explosion. So we're going to put charge in the sucker, light it off, and it's going to burn everything up. Well, when this vinyl chloride, which is used to make plastics, vinyls, things like that, when this vinyl chloride catches fire, it breaks into hydrochloric acid and into phosgene. And phosgene is one of the chemicals they invented to kill people during the First World War. It's 10 times more deadly than chlorine gas. It is absolutely gnarly. The hydrochloric acid gets to the atmosphere, mixes with the water, becomes sulfuric acid, and this is super intense amounts of sulfuric acid. You can see photos and videos of cars that went through rain clouds that were east of East Palestine, and Palestine, I think they call it, and the paint's stripped off. There's plastics melted on the cars from the raindrops. Their wiper blades are completely eaten away. This stuff will kill trees, will melt limestone buildings, cement roads, statues, things like that. It's gonna be bad. And how much of that material settled into the local area before it ever got blown away? Because the solution to pollution is dilution. If you're going to blow that sucker up, you want to make sure there's crazy winds to just disperse it as far as you can. So it just mixes throughout the atmosphere, and we go, whew, okay, that was bad, but at least it's like spread out. Um, but when they blew it up, it was pretty calm day, not very much winds. You can see like the cloud kind of expand out in a circle. It's there's no tail to it because there's no wind. So my guess is it went out, and some of it remained suspended because it was pretty warm, that cloud. But a lot of it just went right back down again before the weather could mix in with it. So I bet there's a large area affected with these chemicals. Um, some scientists are saying it's equivalent of like Chernobyl. Uh, we won't necessarily know probably for months or years. Um, but I wouldn't hang out in that part of Ohio or Pennsylvania. I would. I mean, a lot of people don't have um, the money to. It's not wealthy. It's just very blue collar areas. They don't have the money to just basically like walk away from their homes and go somewhere else. Their jobs are there. Their home they own is there. Things like that. So my guess is a lot of people will return. They'll have their pets get weird cancers, or they'll just kind of die. We'll start to see these pockets of cancers form in certain people. I have no idea how the groundwater is going to be affected. I wouldn't doubt if we see die-offs happen downstream as it makes the Ohio River and the Mississippi. If we see die-offs of fish along the way, um, it's not good. I mean, the Obama administration put in new rules to update the braking requirements of trains in the U.S. Basically, we had Civil War era brake systems, and we're like, hey, let's make better brake systems. So we passed a law in like 2015 or something to do that, and then 2018, the Trump administration went, nope, remove that law. You can have your Civil War brakes. And that seems to be a big problem. Also, this current Biden administration, helped quell a lot of the safety concerns of unionized railroad workers. They were like, hey, I'm not really saying like, hey, we don't get time off, we don't get sick pay, we're worked to the bone, and there's huge safety problems we need to address, or else there's going to be a disaster that happens. And we have like 1,700 derailments in the U.S. every year. It's crazy how many trains derail. Probably because we got these Civil War era brakes. But the rail workers saying something like this is going to happen, and then boom, something like this happened. When I worked at the Art Institute, my classroom overlooked the rail line along the water, and these huge, 200-300 car trains full of oil from the oil sands in Alberta would make their way past me, and it would go past me for maybe another quarter mile, and then would hit a tunnel and go under Seattle and out. And it would be crossing just a dozen roads along the way of stoplights and the little arms that come down right along the waterfront. And every time one of those trains would go by, and they go by every hour or so, I'd watch the train go by, and I would just think, like, okay, a block away, there's some truck stuck on the road. This train hits it. It's not going very fast, but hits it, it derails. A couple of cars flip over, and a fire starts. Okay, fire starts. Bloody explosion wipes out downtown Seattle. Done. There goes 40 blocks. Shrapnel, 5,000 dead, you name it. And that's kind of how. that's how I'm thinking. Like we've got these pretty antiquated rail systems in the U.S. A lot of them are legacy rail systems because GM and Firestone destroyed a lot of the railways back in the 30s or 50s, and we don't really upgrade what we have. So, yeah. Anyway, I think there's going to be a lot of issues coming up in the years in that region of Ohio and Pennsylvania. The wind usually is prevailing to the east, so it's coming from the west, blowing east. So people are east of there, out to Pittsburgh. It could be like 100-mile wide, 150-mile wide swath of devastation that happens from this stuff. It takes a little while for these chemicals to get into the cells and the systems of plants and animals, because everything wants to try and live. The systems are gonna try to like adapt to whatever chemicals in their system, and but cancers form. It's going to mutate some genes. It's going to scar some lungs. It's going to poison some blood. It's going to coat some lungs. It's going to be brutal, man. So yeah. Yeah, a wonderful note to start the day off. BW Brand, that idiot on the I-10 Twitter feed telling everyone nitric acid fumes are not dangerous caused me some stress. Fumes from my plant burning cause all exposed metal for miles to tarnish. Yeah, you guys didn't see that one. A truck full of nitric acid tipped over in the median and broke all the bottles. So the acid's eating through everything in the truck and giving off these really orange fumes. Nitric acid fumes are really, really, really bad. And they're just letting the other lane drive right through the cloud. It's going to rust up those cars. It's going to scar the lungs of the people who breathe that in. Just dumb. There's video footage of people in the opposite lane who were upwind of it, watching all these cars drive through this thick orange cloud of nitric acid fumes. Now, if you're gonna produce nitric acid fumes, which when I reduce gold in my garage, I do, and you do not want to breathe it. You need to set up ventilation and you get that stuff blowing far away from humans so it can disperse in the atmosphere and be gone. And even then, it's like, less nitric acid than water in this jar. And we're talking that truck probably has 10,000 times that in there. When I get it delivered to me, UPS guy delivers it is my friend's husband. He's like, "What the hell are you reducing bodies? Like, what's going on?" Because I'll get these boxes. And the boxes are all foam and they have perfect cylinders cut into the foam where the glass jars are set in. Because you need glass jars because it will eat the plastic. And you get 4 of them in this thing, and it's 4 1 gallons, so it weighs, I don't know, close to 40 pounds with the glass and everything. And it is perfectly form molded foam to go around it. So if you drop it, it just goes thunk, and then that's it. It doesn't shatter the glasses, whatever. Like you cannot spill nitric acid into your well. You can't spill hydrochloric acid. You can't spill sulfuric acid into the ground. It will just eat your pavement. It'll eat everything and then make all these gases. And then, it'll be days before you go back into your garage again. So, the delivery of this stuff is very, very, very special. You have to have licenses and things in a lot of places to be able to receive delivery of this material. And I got set up, I built a hood vent in my garage so I can deal with this stuff. Because even just a little bit of it spilling into the atmosphere of the garage can kill me. It can totally scar the bronchi in my lungs, and then I can no longer get oxygen in, and I'd suffocate to death. And when it even just a little bit gets into your throat, you can feel it. You're like, "Oh shit, I'm dying." So I wear a 100 respirator. An N100 respirator with the big old gas things on it. I put on safety goggles. I've got, a thick rubber bib apron. I've got gloves that go all up my arms. Sometimes I wear a splash shield because the mask and the glasses don't quite cover the rest of the skin. And then I do my thing. And I got the hood vent going and air sucking everything out, putting it up in the air and out over the house. Man, I would not be like, "That's okay, drive right through that." We're talking 20 ounces versus 20,000 gallons. Just nuts. B-Ball 3710. Why are climate activists and media oddly quiet about the Ohio burn? Did they get the stand down from the higher ups? I don't see any climate activists being quiet about it. The local media is very loud about it, but the national media is not. I do think the national media needs to get a bit more on board with yelling about this, what's happening in East Palestine. But I don't see any climate activists who are like, "Well, mom's a word." I see them constantly tweeting about it, writing letters about it, articles about it, talking about it as much as they can.